The scorching African sun beat down mercilessly as Ranger Thomas Bennett raised his binoculars, scanning the vast savannah for signs of the pride he'd been tracking for weeks. Sweat trickled down his weathered face, stinging his eyes as the temperature soared past 105 degrees. What he witnessed through those lenses would haunt him forever and change everything he thought he knew about the wild. A massive lioness named Zara prowled through the tall grass, her golden coat rippling with each calculated step, muscles moving beneath her skin like water flowing over stone. But she wasn't alone. Trailing behind her like devoted shadows were two small spotted figures that made Thomas's blood run cold and his hand shake so violently he nearly dropped his binoculars. Baby deer fawns, impossibly fragile, impossibly vulnerable, walking directly behind one of Africa's most feared predators as if she were their mother. Thomas had spent 23 years working in these wilds, had seen every imaginable scenario play out across the endless plains. But this defied everything he knew about the natural order. Just days earlier, Thomas had discovered the tragic scene that started it all. A mother deer lay motionless near the watering hole, her once graceful body torn and broken, victim to a pack of wild hyenas that had torn through the area like a plague during the night. Her two newborn fawns, barely a week old and still unsteady on their impossibly thin legs, huddled beside her lifeless body, crying out in desperate, heart-wrenching bleats that echoed across the empty plains. The sound was almost human in its anguish, cutting to Thomas like a knife. Thomas knew the harsh reality of nature all too well. These babies had zero chance of survival. He learned that lesson in his first month on the job, learned to accept it even when it broke his heart. Orphan fawns this young couldn't feed themselves, couldn't escape predators, couldn't even regulate their own body temperature in the brutal heat of the African day or the bone-chilling cold of the desert night. He'd seen it countless times before. The circle of life was beautiful in theory, but devastating to witness. Within hours, they'd become someone else's meal. That was simply the way of things. But Zara had other plans entirely. The powerful lioness had emerged from the brush that fateful morning, drawn by the fawn's distressed cries that carried for miles across the open terrain. Thomas watched in absolute terror, certain he was about to witness a brutal end to the baby's short lives. His finger hovered over his radio, debating whether to intervene, his heart pounding in his chest as he wrestled with an impossible decision. He knew that interfering with nature's course could have devastating consequences for the entire ecosystem, create a dependency that would ultimately doom these animals anyway. But could he really stand by and watch? Then, something extraordinary happened that would change his understanding of the natural world forever.
Instead of striking with the lethal precision she was born to execute, Zara approached the trembling foams with a gentleness that defied every instinct Thomas thought he understood about big cats. She moved slowly, deliberately, her powerful body lowered to appear less threatening. She sniffed them carefully, methodically, her massive head lowering until it was level with their tiny spotted bodies. Her whiskers twitched as she examined every inch of the terrified babies. The fawns, driven by pure desperation and an instinct older than thought itself, actually nuzzled against her warm fur, seeking the comfort they'd lost with their mother. And Zara, this apex predator, this killing machine designed by millions of years of evolution, let them. More than that, she seemed to welcome their touch, her eyes softening in a way Thomas had only seen lionesses look at their own cubs. For 3 days, Thomas documented what scientists would later call impossible, what behavioral experts would debate in academic journals for years to come. The lioness groomed the fawns with her rough tongue the same way she would her own cubs, running it across their spotted coats with remarkable gentleness. She led them to sheltered spots during the hottest parts of the day, when the sun turned the savannah into a furnace that could kill young animals in minutes. Her massive body created shade for their delicate skin, a living umbrella against the merciless African heat. Most incredibly, she allowed them to nurse despite having no milk to give, no recent pregnancy to trigger lactation, but the comfort and warmth of her body seemed to calm their panicked hearts, giving them something to cling to in a world that had suddenly become terrifying and hostile. Word spread quickly through the ranger station like wildfire through dry grass. Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell, the region's leading wildlife behavioral specialist with over 30 years of field experience and countless published papers, arrived expecting to find either dead fawns or a lioness who had simply postponed an inevitable meal, perhaps playing with her food in the way cats sometimes do. What she discovered challenged decades of research and left her questioning everything she thought she knew about predator behavior, about instinct, about the rigid categories scientists had built to understand the animal kingdom. "This is unprecedented," she whispered to Thomas, as they watched Zara gently nudge one of the fawns away from a thorny bush, using her massive paw with the precision of a surgeon. "Lions don't adopt prey animals. It goes against every evolutionary instinct they possess. They're hardwired to see deer as food, nothing more. The fact that she's not only protecting them but nurturing them, it shouldn't be possible."
On the fourth day, something miraculous occurred that would be documented in veterinary journals worldwide. Zara began producing milk. Somehow, impossibly, her maternal instincts had triggered lactation despite not giving birth recently, despite every biological principle suggesting this couldn't happen. The fawns, whom Thomas had named Hope and Faith in a moment of uncharacteristic sentimentality, latched on eagerly, their tiny tails wagging with pure joy as they finally received the nourishment they desperately needed. The wildlife community erupted in fascination and debate. Videos of the unlikely family spread across social media platforms like wildfire, garnering millions of views and touching hearts worldwide. News crews arrived from 3 continents. The story was translated into dozens of languages. Messages poured in from school children, scientists, and everyone in between, all captivated by this impossible bond. But not everyone was pleased with the sudden attention. Local poacher Vincent Cole had been tracking Zara's pride for weeks, planning to capture the magnificent lioness for illegal wildlife trafficking, a black market that moved billions of dollars annually. The sudden media attention around her threatened to expose his entire operation and cost him thousands of dollars in anticipated profits. Furious at this setback and growing increasingly desperate as authorities closed in, he decided to eliminate the problem permanently. On a moonless night, when darkness blanketed the savannah like a shroud, Cole crept toward the pride's resting area with a high-powered rifle and tranquilizer darts. His plan was simple, cold, calculated. Kill the fawns to remove the media attention, then capture Zara while she was vulnerable with grief, transport her across the border before anyone could respond. But Cole had made a fatal mistake. He had underestimated the power of a mother's love. As he raised his weapon, targeting Hope as she slept peacefully against Zara's side, tiny body rising and falling with innocent breaths, Zara's eyes snapped open. In the darkness, her golden gaze locked onto the poacher with an intensity that made his blood freeze in his veins. She had sensed the threat to her adopted babies from hundreds of yards away, some primal instinct that transcended species, transcended logic. What happened next was swift and absolute, a display of raw power that reminded everyone watching exactly what lions were capable of when protecting their own. Zara rose like a golden shadow, every muscle in her 350-pound frame coiled for destruction. Her roar shattered the night silence, a sound so primal and terrifying that it seemed to shake the very earth beneath their feet. Animals for miles around fell silent, recognizing the voice of rage incarnate. Cole's hands trembled as he tried to aim, but fear had stolen his coordination, stolen his breath, stolen every ounce of the bravado that had carried him this far. The lioness charged with the fury of every mother who had ever lost a child, covering the distance between them in seconds that felt like heartbeats.
Cole fired wildly, the shot going wide and disappearing into the darkness, before dropping his rifle and running for his life. But there was nowhere to hide on the open savannah, and Zara was built for exactly this kind of hunt, designed by nature to be the perfect pursuit predator. Park rangers, alerted by the commotion and the unmistakable sound of Zara's protective roar, arrived within minutes to find Cole trapped in a tree, clinging to branches and sobbing. Zara circled below with her fawns safely behind her, ensuring the threat remained neutralized. The poacher, crying and begging for rescue, faced justice for his crimes against wildlife. His equipment revealed evidence of an extensive trafficking network that authorities had been hunting for years: GPS coordinates, contact lists, shipping routes. Cole received a 15-year prison sentence, and his arrest led to the dismantling of one of East Africa's largest poaching operations. Dozens of animals were saved, and the region's wildlife population began to recover in ways that amazed conservationists. Hope and faith grew strong and healthy under Zara's devoted care, eventually learning to forage for vegetation while still maintaining their incredible bond with their lioness mother. They became symbols of resilience and the power of love to transcend all boundaries, proof that the natural world still had secrets to reveal, miracles to share. Sometimes the greatest victories come from the most unexpected places, from the most unlikely heroes. In a world where predators and prey are locked in eternal conflict, where the rules seem written in stone, one lioness proved that love truly knows no boundaries, that compassion can emerge even in the harshest environments, that family is defined not by blood, but by choice and devotion. If this incredible story touched your heart, smash that like button and subscribe for more amazing wildlife stories that will restore your faith in the natural world.